Okay, everybody, you know the drill. It's a stream of consciousness video. No particular order. Let's go on the journey. Today we found out that the UK's economy hadn't grown as much as they thought it was going to grow. Bearing in mind, since Brexit, it hasn't been growing very much at all. So of course, the very people that helped create Brexit, that'll be Reform and the Tories, came online and went on the media to slag off Labour. And I get politics is politics and oppositions want to just slag off a government. But really, they know, or at least the experts know, so maybe not the Tories and Reform, that this reduction in growth was solely down to Jaguar Land Rover getting hacked. And the reality is not the doom and gloom that the Tories and Reform are selling to people, but actually there is an economic upturn. And hopefully the next quarter will see that actually coming into numbers because the government stepped in to try to solve what had happened with the hacking at Jaguar Land Rover. And then speaking of the Tories, I don't know what on earth was going on that somebody had briefed the press to say that there was trouble at number 10. That in itself was a stupid move and undermined the government and undermines the country. But then Kemi Badenoch uses her 6 questions at PMQs this week to just talk about it. Now, call me old-fashioned, but the fact that Westminster are busy arguing about Westminster, whereas in reality, the UK has got a lot of things that we need to be talking about. Like, stop trying to appeal to the bloody media class and use questions to make a difference. Talk about how the failings in the Sarah Sharif review have revealed how crap it is for children that are in trouble. Ask about what are we doing about our most vulnerable in society, the looked after children, and why we're not getting it right and we're letting them down. Demand that the government does more to help the 4.5 million children that are in poverty in the UK. Stop wasting time in the House talking about politics with a small p when there are literally children dying. And leap with me over to X, where people are now claiming that Starmer is the worst PM ever. Because they've rewritten history and now Boris Johnson just lost his job because he ate some cake. Even though he was partying when the UK was in lockdown and went to Parliament and lied about it several times. And whilst he wouldn't spaff the money up the wall to do a national inquiry on the grooming gangs, he was happy to spaff the money to his mates via VIP lanes during the pandemic. But then the same people are literally rewriting history about Liz Truss. It's like they've forgotten what a car crash she was. There again, our media rewrite history. Suddenly, Kwasi is sat on the sofa on a breakfast morning programme speaking like he's an expert. But he was the dickhead that helped Liz Truss trash everything. Liz, who's still as barking as ever, who today has put the stagnant growth down to the fact that we're not fracking. Like the only doom loop is in her head. That'll be a former Prime Minister who is currently on X agreeing with Elon Musk, who we know is a far-right loon, undermining the BBC and saying that X is the future of news, even though it's full of anonymous bots funded by who knows who, slagging off our government and causing division. And just to prove that things are really bonkers, Harry Cole, formerly of The Sun, runs a little poll on his platform to find out that 100% of his listeners would prefer Trump as the Prime Minister over Starmer. Trump, who at the moment kind of rightly pissed off that the BBC did a bad edit on one of his speeches, however, is threatening to sue the BBC for $1 billion, even though he'd never get that, and even though the statute of limitation has run out. But it doesn't matter, he wanted to get the soundbite. But he wanted to sue them because of defamation, implying that he's got a good character to defame. I mean, if he saw this poll, I guess he would think he had a good character. Here's the thing though, isn't it? We all saw Donald Trump undermining the American election and actively inciting the insurrectionists to go to Capitol Hill. Once again, BBC stupid to have done the edit that they did. But they didn't exactly defame Trump because we all heard it. Even though Trump himself is trying to pretend it didn't happen. He pardoned all the insurrectionists. He pardoned all the officials that were trying to help him steal the election. And as of today, we find out that Epstein probably gave some information to Russia in order to blackmail Trump. And whilst it's fair, isn't it, that Prince Andrew is no longer Prince Andrew because of Epstein, and Peter Mandelson is no longer the British ambassador to the US because of Epstein, President Trump is still President Trump, but he is right in the middle of the Epstein scandal. Meaning that when he says he's got an obligation to sue the BBC, what he really means is that he's got an obligation to keep another story going, otherwise he's fucked. So shit leaders rewriting history. Meanwhile, a dull leader who's nowhere near that level of scandal, like nowhere near, and who has been doing loads of things to try to help working people, even though they're not instant fixes, is deemed to be the devil incarnate. Meanwhile, we have a populist leader who is causing more and more division in the UK, who was regularly spewing Putin talking points, lying about meeting with the Russians, and we know that his close mate was literally a Russian asset, whose former aide was tied up with some dodgy dealings with the Russian embassy, who will jump on any negative bandwagon that's passing him by. And we have a media that don't hold him to account at all. Like, no scrutiny. No outrage because Reform haven't investigated the Russian connection. No outrage because they've never found out exactly where the money for his house in Frinton-on-Sea came from, who gets over-amplified on all of our media outlets and then gets lauded when he's ahead in the polls. Plus, of course, was hugely responsible for the economic self-harm that Brexit did to us. But like Truss, like Kwasi, like Trump, has just rewritten history and washed his hands of it and pretended it's just a bit of a mess that he's found himself in. Boy, it's a lot, isn't it? Although now I've said all of that, I feel much better, because now I've said it out of my head, I realise I'm right to think it's bloody bonkers. Anyway, thanks for coming to my TAD talk, as you were.